Good morning, everybody. This is the 34th segment of our Think Before You Speak series, The Laws of Shemirat Halashon, with clarity. Lilu Nishmat, the Chafetz Chaim Zechet Tzadik Lebracha, Lilu Nishmat Luz Aliz Bat Henriette and her children that passed in the fire, Ruach Hashem Tenichena Began Eden, and also dedicated for the Hatzlacha and the Yeshuot of our Bnei Chabura and the Yeshuot for Klal Yisrael. And specifically, these halachot are dedicated for the great Yeshua Gdola and Shemirat Gdola for Chaim Davido ben Chayesar. Today's halachot are subject as the worst sin of all. Now, it's interesting, when people talk about Shemirat Halashon and Lashon Hara, right off the bat they think that the closer the person is to you, the more probable the truth is being told. And why wouldn't that be a problem? This is probably true and I can believe it, and there's not even reason to give benefit of the doubt on the information that's being told. But in truth, it makes no difference. When it comes to Lashon Hara, it's forbidden, regardless if the speaker is your father, your mother, regardless if it's a man or a woman, regardless if it's your husband or your wife. It could be the closest relative, even a spouse. Lashon Hara is forbidden to be spoken and to be listened to, period. No matter how close the speaker is to you, no matter how much you can rely on them, no matter how much of a relative they may be. At the same time, it's also true that no matter who they're speaking about, even if the subject that they're speaking about is their own wife or own husband, or their in-laws or their parents, people that you would never expect them to say anything but the truth about, and it makes no difference. It's still Lashon Hara, and it's still forbidden to speak about anyone, no matter how close they may be to you. Now, if there's a constructive purpose involved, that might be a different situation. You know, the Mishnah tells us that there are certain mitzvot that are so great, they're so unbelievable, that the reward of these mitzvot are just too big to pay you in this world. It's just impossible. This world is finite, and the reward for these great mitzvot are infinite. But the Mishnah tells us that these great mitzvot we're able to give a person from what we would call the interest of the mitzvah in this world. V'hakeren kayemet lo le'olam haba. But the principal reward of this mitzvah can only be given to you in the next world. Do you know that the Tosefta writes, so too when it comes to certain averot, there are certain averot that are so terrible that the punishment for that avera cannot really be given to you in this world. This world is not big enough to hold the punishment of a sin that terrible, that big. And the Mishnah begins to tell us that averot like the three cardinal sins, for instance, ritzicha, murder, or idol worship, avodah zarah, or maybe arayot, gilui arayot, adultery, these three cardinal sins, the avera is so terrible that the punishment you get for it in this world is only the interest on the punishment, but the principle of the punishment is held for the next world. Wow. Says the Rambam that the sin of Lashon Hara, when someone speaks Lashon Hara, it's so terrible that it's tantamount to all three cardinal sins. And that means that all the suffering that people go through in this world, the misfortune that they have to deal with, lo aleinu v'lo aleichem, in this world, is driven by the fact that they spoke Lashon Hara and they did not guard their tongue. And even that is only the interest of the punishment. The Karen, the principle of that punishment, is still waiting in the next world. Hashem Yishmor. Let's take these words and let's shake together and let's remind ourselves that this is the area we're going to put all our kochot in. Shemirat Halashon, Leilu Nishmat, the Chafetz Chaim. Thank you for listening.